Sweet, and we're rolling. Okay, yeah, I wanted to, Alex, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I think it's best if we start off with a topic we were talking about offline, and it's AI. What I said was a lot of people are talking about how the next era of social media and marketing is the AI era, and could not disagree more. I think it's the embodiment era and becoming someone who you need to be era because most AI demand is manufactured, not just in valuation, but in what people actually want. And that's a house of cards and that can only sit around for so long.
Yeah, the people that I know that have the deepest connection to spirit, God, whatever you want to call it, um, that live their life led in that way. And I'm not talking about a shaman that serves mushrooms off the side of the road in Mexico, which, like, no offense to that person, they're probably awesome. But,
Mm-hmm.
like, successful individuals that often meditate and prayer and pray and they have a strong connection, those individuals have a visceral pulsion towards going all in on AI, um, which I don't always feel that strongly every single day, but I'll go down a little rabbit hole with AI and I'm like working on a project and it's like 3 hours later. I'm like, what's this even saying? What is this? And I'll
Yeah.
just go with a piece of paper and a pen and I'll hike up the mountain behind my house and come up with something 50 times better.
Yeah.
And I think that's a little micro example for me of the macrocosm of what's happening. Of people are just going so far down this AI rabbit hole of automating everything left, right, and center that they're getting lost they're getting farther from the truth. And
Yeah.
when you mentioned embodiment to me is like a present moment connection to the truth. And so I don't think, I mean, I don't know anything. I say this all the time. I know nothing. I don't think AI is like evil or the devil. Maybe it is because I don't know anything. But it just doesn't feel good right now in my body.
Yeah. And I remember you posting that on your story where you're like, the more I connect with God and the more I connect with my purpose, the less I'm using AI. And I completely align with that. Like, I feel like the more I go on the path of, wow, this is really lighting me up, I'm like, I don't need AI. Not to say that if I'm like ever stuck and I really can't, I go on a walk and I take a break and I'm like, okay, I'm really fucking stumped. I'm not opposed to pulling it up, but like, I've never actually got to that point. As far as I'm like on track and I feel like, yeah, I'm rolling in a good direction, this feels like an extension of who I am. I don't actually need to go to ChatGPT and figure it out.
Yeah. I think AI can be a really, really good complement to what we're doing, but it shouldn't be the foundational pillar of what we're doing. Just in the same way that this is awesome that we're talking to each other right now on Riverside, we're using technology to record this. I'm stoked about it. I'm infinitely more excited to meet up with you in person
Yeah,
and jam. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, I was talking to a buddy of mine and I said that I think that with back end stuff, admin work, busy work, AI does level the playing field, right? Like if you and I can figure out how to create a CRM that follows up with people, that's it's infinitely more effective than us doing it manually and, trying to set up all these domains. However, with things that are front facing, I think AI creates a gap, like widens the gap between people who know what they're doing and people who don't. And even then, the people who are proficient without it are even farther above them because trust is at such an all-time low and the
Yes.
average person fucking hates AI. Like it's not just like what do you think of AI to the average person and not just like, oh, Excel, like what do you think about OpenAI and Nvidia and all these things? The average person would tell you, I fucking hate it. And you don't need to go far to look for those answers. YouTube, Reddit, social media. The average person hates it. And so they will gravitate more towards you if you don't rely on it or make your entire personality or act like it's, the new gold rush.
Totally. Uh, as you know, I'm pretty connected to Skool, the platform,
Mm-hmm.
and the core team there, and they have something really special that I've got to experience and feel being with them in person. And then there were some people that came onto Skool, and they were just AI focused. They had AI businesses, and they made a lot of money in a short amount of time. And it started to change the foundational energy or dynamic of the platform. And so then you see Skool kind of gently pivoting away from that focus and some of those people, um, not publicly, but just kind of what has naturally happened because it got farther away from the essence of school, which is real human connection in community.
Hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And even with, not to say that it's bad, but just, be mindful of how you're consuming. There are a lot of clips I've seen go viral of people be like, AI is God. Like, I'm sure this is God. And I'm like, let's
Yeah,
let's slow down for a second. It's an LLM chatbot. Yes, it's very capable, but just because it can tell you the lead up to the 1954 World Cup and a bread recipe for your mom in the 5 minute span does not mean it's God. Like let's really pump the brakes
yeah.
on the labels we're throwing around.
Although you and I could start an AI church, which would
They already have one. It's called Scientology.
right. I forgot about that. Yeah, shout out to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, it's very popular. I
Yeah.
personally don't know why, but there are a lot of people in it.
Man, so, uh, this is not a rabbit hole we will go down, I don't think. But the guy that invented Scientology, he has like a really wild quote, which is like one of the best ways to become wildly wealthy is to make your own religion. And then
Yeah.
he made Scientology. So
I mean, he practiced what he preached. Because it
you
wasn't
gotta respect it.
he was a science fiction author and he just wrote a fuck ton of books. Like it was something ridiculous, like hundreds of books while he was alive.
Yeah, I
And he
forget.
just created a religion.
What's his name? Like
L.
Robert.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah. Practice what he's preaching.
Yeah. That guy, you know what? If he had like a school group or like a marketing
I join
group,
it.
I would at least look. Like
Yeah.
I'd go to the free page or the free course because like he's teaching what he's doing. He's not just like I learned this and I'm going to teach you. He's like no, this is my like one philosophy and I've fucking perfected it. Everybody body bags my religion. So many people hate it, but we're still out here and I'd be like there's something to be learned from him.
He had a 7 day free challenge and converted Tom Cruise. So I mean, like, it's got to be pretty good.
Dude, that's crazy. That's the original 7 day challenge marketing funnel. Whatever it is he did, there's something to be learned there for sure.
Yeah, I actually often reference organized religion when I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about community building. It's like they're the goats, so the OG.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, go to any church, it's free. They walk in, they immediately give you a book that they base all of their teachings off of in their classroom. No, like it's free usually, whether it's the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or who knows what, and then they just reference that free material on a regular basis, and then the conversion happens later.
They have a community, and the ones who are good have like a thriving community where you can like meet other people. Like
Yeah,
when I was growing up in Winnipeg, there was a church I went to, and it was really for like 10 years. It was growing really quickly, tons of new families in. It's because everybody loved the priest. Like the priest was super personable, and he wasn't like your classic Catholic priest. He was very young. He was really good at preaching. He talked to people, and yeah, like the church was just exploding. And then they moved him, and then the church died, and I was like, oh, it just like tanked. Everybody left. I was like, oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I wonder what that guy did. Did he move to like another
They
church
moved
or?
him to another parish. He's a realtor now. He's like one of my best friends now. So
Uh,
he left the church completely.
that makes sense. A successful pastor or priest is successful in whatever they would do. It's just
Yeah,
like, yeah,
yeah, exactly. And he's like, yeah, I don't really need to go look for business because like I've just made so many friends over like the last 20 years. All these people just come to me. I'm like,
a community.
exactly, man.
Wow.
And he didn't pitch them. He didn't sell them. But now that he's got something,
Yeah, which is
everybody wants to go to him.
AI automations for real estate agents.
Dude,
That's
literally. I was like, I can make you a custom AI calling bot to call people for you. He's like, what? I'm like, never mind. Nothing. It's
yeah,
fine.
it's fine.
I actually think that this is a theory of mine. I'm curious to hear what you think, because obviously your whole thing is built with God. And a lot of people think that like God, spirituality, and religion are all synonymous with each other and like they all have to move in sync. I think that religion is like university. Is that university for the average person, if you and they're just like, I just want to live a good life. I don't really want to think about it too much. I want to have a family and make good money. If you gave the average person a university degree, they would have a higher likelihood of achieving those things. The
Yeah,
numbers show it.
yeah,
University graduates often make more than college dropouts or people who don't go at all. They have a higher chance of getting married, higher chance of being fulfilled in life. But if you look at the people who are really fucking successful, like the people who are building massive businesses and doing really cool shit, I don't know if over 10% of them have a university degree. All of them either dropped out, don't use the degree, or just said, fuck it. I think religion's the same way. If you want things to just be handed to you and you don't want to think too much, go find a church you like and just kind of listen to everything they say. You'll be good for the most part. But if you really want to fucking go for it and reach like a high level fulfillment, you have to be willing to color outside the lines and create your own relationship to what all this means. Otherwise, it's just not going to stick.
That's my number one focus, is building a deep, intimate, real embodied relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm super stoked on any way that someone does that. If they want to go and live in a monastery and meditate every day, or if they want to go down to their local church and like
Mm-hmm.
if they're feeling that and they're experiencing that, like, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Yeah. No, dude, I think I really agree with that. What made you want to change your focus on business to building with God rather than anything you were doing before?
It was a slow drip. I mean, this is like the long version made short of, like, I went to business school and came out of business school with two idols that I desired to be like, which they were characters off TV shows. One was Harvey Specter from Suits. The other one was, I forget the character's name, from House of Cards. It was Kevin Spacey, which is just like, do whatever it takes to be successful, get lots of girls, get cool cars and suits,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where I was at, and that works in a certain space, in the corporate world. It worked for me for a short amount of time, until I felt depressed, until I felt empty, until I felt, I started to feel something, essentially, in between the beers from all the different sales meetings that I was at.
Mm-hmm.
And then around that time, I had my first psychedelic experience, and I felt something that, at the time, I would say it was like the divine, something bigger than this. And that really messed me up.
Mm-hmm.
And from that moment, it was my early 20s. I was like, okay, well, I felt something, which that's called unconditional love. And then I was trying to pair that with, like, well, I'm a business dude and I make money, and over time, the more I connected with that thing, the divine unconditional love, we'll call it God now, the more I saw that shape my career, and I saw that shape how I interacted with people, and essentially just started to make me less of a, well, I won't call myself names, but it started to make me a better person. It started to make me feel better, and it started to allow me to help more people. That actually reached a pinnacle where I got really, really sick. And I was sick for like almost 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And every day it got worse. And at this point, I had a pretty good relationship with God. And I was doing 75 hard at the time. And we were doing like a bunch of big pushes in the business. And I was like pushing, go, 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 go. And essentially, this illness brought me to my knees, literally, where I couldn't figure out how to get better. I was going to go to the hospital, essentially, because I couldn't breathe properly. And I went out into the forest, dropped to my knees, and was like, okay, God, I need help. I've taken every herb, I've done every Joe Dispenza meditation, I've done every breath work. It's not working. I don't know what to do. And so it was like a moment of surrender. 2 days later, I was pretty much better.
Wow.
And that, something shifted for me with my physical body and my health, of like, oh, okay, so why don't I just give my body and my health to God? And that's like been improving my health. And then I was like, why am I not doing that in other areas of my life? And so I started to do that in my relationship and my marriage. Got infinitely better. And so naturally that led me to the world of business. And that's just been shaping everything I do, where instead of thinking that I know the right way, or assuming that I know the right way, I will go and pray about things, and I will go and meditate on things out in nature. And that's how I've been living as an entrepreneur now. And the outcomes are so fun. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like my career path in my business is so much more fun now because I'm on this adventure and I don't know where it's going, but I know it's being led by God because
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much go through that process every single morning of, hey God, what's up? New day. Thank you for help, like allowing me to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want me to do today? I'm here to be of service. I'm here to help people.
Mm-hmm.
You show me. And that's just led to a really really fun adventure that I would now call my life in entrepreneurship, and it's led me to connect with really beautiful people,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just experiencing more and more fulfillment, more joy, more connection to what I'm doing, and there's results that are coming with that too. Am I making more money than I've ever made before? No. um, am I starting to keep more money and profit more because I'm actually trying to be a good steward of
Mm.
what's been given to me? Yes.
Yeah.
So I could talk about this infinitely, but I was essentially forced, brought to my knees, luckily, and and I've been connecting with more and more people that are faith led, and so some of them are Christian, some of them just say, "Hey, I have a relationship with God." Some of them just like Jesus. Some of them are just spiritual in a sense of like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
connect to the all, I connect to the infinite intelligence, and I love doing business with those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, when I'm sharing this with you, what I'm noticing is underneath it all, there's actually like a real fun, childlike excitement that's
Mm.
coming with it, where I'm not just plugging away, and like, oh, how do you make money in business? A plus B equals C. It's a mysterious adventure that is leading me to feel more fulfilled and more joyous in the pursuit. And I'm way, 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 way more service focused now.
Yeah. Dude, Taylor Welch had this great clip where he talked about he's like, my number one consultant's God. Like always, before I do anything, I always pray. He's like, I have a team of people that we pray together. We pray individually. And like, if we're not consulting with God, like we're on a faith-led business. Like that should be our number one consultant. And I thought that was really profound. And it sounds like in some way or another, you're kind of living that same truth where it's like, what do I need to do in order to be a good steward of the resources God has allowed me to experience?
Yeah, yeah. Taylor's awesome. He's definitely shaped my journey, especially in the past year or so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at a basic level, if you're talking to someone, be like, "Hey, do you believe in God or like something bigger?" I'm like, yeah, cool. Do you believe that that's like the architect of this reality in some way, shape, or form? That it made everything and is everything? Like, yeah. Why would you not connect with that and
Mm-hmm.
consult with that intelligence
Mm-hmm.
in pursuit of whatever you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's even just from like a logical level, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I should probably try and
Yeah,
see if I
yeah,
get some
literally.
direction there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's interesting too because sometimes people can get lost in labels. Like I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he was like, "For the longest time, I really tried to be a Christian, but I just couldn't do it." And I'm like, "Well, what does that mean to you?" He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "What is a Christian to you? Like, do you just believe that Christ is the Son of God? Do you believe that?" Well, he's like, "Well, I think that he wasn't, but I think he was God because we all are God." I'm like, "Okay, like similar, not the exact same, but like similar kind of concept. But you believe he was a divine being? He wasn't just some lunatic, right? Like, do you that's and he's like telling me like he did all this research and he read and he just couldn't get around the organized portion of it because he felt like institutional religion just didn't align. I'm like, but that to me is more of a Christian like discovery process because I don't think it's supposed to be like one size fits all for everybody. And as long as you're like tapping into this thing that you believe governs, not governs, I don't like that word, but like created the universe and is beyond this realm, to me that's like more Christian, quote unquote, than like just going to church and not developing a relationship with the text. You just go and it's things you say and it's a place you go to and that's it.
Yeah, going back to the AI note on embodiment, I think there are a small percentage of people that do find connection with God through studying and through
Mm-hmm.
wrestling with their logic and kind of this like apologetic type, looking at
Mm-hmm.
history approach. I don't think that's most people. It's definitely not me,
Mm-hmm.
and my experiences have been all experiential.
Yeah. Same.
And so I could try and give someone an essay as to why I follow Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
and they'd be like, well, I'm like, I can't explain
Yeah.
the moments where I've literally had spirit descend upon me and I'm just crying instantly for no reason and my
Hmm.
whole body is like lit up with goosebumps. Like, I don't think you can explain that to anyone. Everyone has to have that experience for themselves in some way, shape, or form.
Hmm. No, I completely agree with you. Because, I mean, based on even just if we take the word God out of the equation, I don't think there's any lesson that you can really embody without taking it to heart, like literally and figuratively. The mind and the heart have to be in sync, right? If you just know something in your head, it's much different than when you feel it, right? Like if I were to tell you, like, hey man, I love you, I think you're great. You'd be like, why are you not looking at me? What's wrong with you? But if I'm talking to you and my energy is aligned with the words I'm saying, you feel it so much more. And so I think
Yeah,
that's kind of like a small version of experiencing God that we all know because we've all experienced somebody say something that doesn't feel aligned with how they're feeling. And you're like, something's not right here. You can extrapolate that concept into a much greater scale, which is how do you explain if this divine creator descends to you or like gives you an out of body experience? How do you put that into words?
totally. And a disembodied perspective on God, which is like, well, here's these facts and
Mm-hmm.
these arguments, and that sounds actually a lot like AI. Not to keep circling back to it, but it's like this disembodied knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and information that this is why I'm 0% worried about losing my job as a coach because I've seen people's chat GPT conversations where they're talking the most profound childhood trauma type conversations and they don't do any like nothing changes.
Yeah, yeah. I almost want to just like message people, and I don't do this because obviously, you don't want to get involved in certain conversations where you're not sure what the intent is. But I almost just want to message them and be like, hey, there's an upgraded version of ChatGPT that you don't have to go online for. Sometimes
Yeah,
it takes a while to get the connection if you're not used to it, but like, man, the insights are so much better. I can't even put a number on.
I forget. I heard someone say this. I won't be able to connect the name, but they're like, "Hey, like AI is cool. Have you ever heard of like DI, like divine intelligence, like
That's funny.
available to any? Just plug in."
That's good. That's
Yeah,
funny. That's really funny. Yeah, and it's part of what I see as well is with these conversations. It just sounds like, and I mean, everybody's experience is different, right? Like I can't put myself in other people's shoes, but whenever I see somebody post something of what ChatGPT thinks of them, it's nice and sometimes it's accurate just from like an analytical standpoint. But I just find that it doesn't hit. Like it's not very profound. Like it's not a deep emotional experience. It's like this is a computer taking everything I'm telling it and just like this here. And I'm like, thank you. That's great. But even some because for the program I'm going to launch, I want to experiment with some AI, like custom AI stuff. I don't want it to be anything crazy, but sometimes in a pinch, I know it can really help people, especially if they're new to the concepts. But I've used some people's AIs before, and even some like AIs that are meant to have a more spiritual angle of like self discovery. And some of them are solid, but I always find that they just don't last. Like if you ask me, like, what was one of the biggest lessons you learned from one of those AIs, I'd be like, I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe it sounded relevant in the moment, but it just never really hit. So it's not necessarily that it's bad, but I just find that it's always fleeting. And sometimes people can make that their therapist or their own version of God or their consultant. And I feel like you're getting on this hamster wheel of advice instead of like really living and like taking to heart what you need in order to get to where you want.
It actually reminds me of one of the ways that we connected was in the space of men's work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I talk about this often with men, and you and I are both blessed to be in relationships with really cool women,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the exact same thing where it's like if I tell my wife something that is just it's just coming out of my mouth, right? For example, like I'm sorry I did that thing, and I don't mean it
Mm-hmm.
in my body, and I don't feel she knows right away.
Mm-hmm.
So I could say the perfect thing,
Mm-hmm.
just like AI could say the perfect thing, but there's something missing underneath, and her BS detector would go off right away.
Yeah.
And now you're in a bigger conflict. Why? Because something was disingenuous or something was untrue,
Hmm.
and that's the worst thing that a human can feel from another human being, is that they're being told one thing and meaning another.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think relationships are a really good litmus test for that.
Totally.
Just go tell your partner something logically that you don't believe or feel at all and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think that women are such a gift in a lot of ways, especially like my partner, she's really committed to learning about herself and connecting with God and having depth in her life. And it's so funny that even if I feel slightly bit off, all of a sudden I'll hear like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Where did you come from?
Yeah,
Like, how did
yeah.
you know this?"
Yes.
I'm like, "I'm doing something." But it's just so funny how they pick up on all these little things that I might not have even noticed or I might miss. And if you don't spend time cultivating that in your relationship and giving that room to grow, like there's this massive experience or part of your relationship that you can't possibly go to if you don't give that room to thrive, which is why I think a lot of guys who are so successful struggle, because all they know is just like ambition, structure, push, negotiate, be the man, but they haven't cultivated any softness in themselves, so they don't know how to like connect with their woman in that way.
Yeah.
And it's like, why is my relationship not working? Or like,
Yeah.
why is this failing? Or why can't I connect with my wife and kids?
Yeah. And just a note on that, if there's any guys watching this, if someone asks me like, "Hey, what you're doing now or what you're doing next, like, why is it so successful?" God, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, if someone's met my wife, they already know right away. So like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I those little moments where you feel something and your wife is just like already like, "Oh yeah, I know something's off." That happens 20 times a day to me, and
No hiding.
no hiding, but also just this constant call back to an emotional or energetic truth that you can't fake. Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree, because I mean I'm still very young, right? I think we're both very young. I'm 27. I turned 27. And in the past, like in my early 20s, mid 20s even, and when I was a teen, I really wanted to get better with women, because when I was a kid, I didn't have any social skills. I never went on dates as a young teen, as a teenager, and I didn't really start dating till I was like 20. So I was like, I really want to get better with women. I'd like read books and I'd watch videos and I'd buy digital products, and it's not that they were bad, but it's really, with what I have now with my partner, it really is night and day between like knowing the information and like actually living the like what you've learned and embodying the person you want to be. I In the past, it'd be like I'm analyzing and what I need to do, and now it's like, no, I just know what I need to do. And like, could I explain this to somebody? Yeah, I'm sure if I sat down and like wrote it out, I could be like, okay, well, this is how the dynamics work and blah 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 blah. But that wouldn't mean shit to that person. Like, there's something that meditating 700 days in a row, almost, we're at 696 today, it cannot be replaced by a YouTube video. Or doing breath work with the intent to connect with yourself cannot be replaced by a book. Or moving across the country and doing all these things and connecting with God and like taking every moment as an opportunity to learn and pivot and find out more about yourself and what you want and what you're after. It just can't be summarized in a neat little paragraph from ChatGPT. It just can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. And if someone was asking me right now, like, "Hey, I mean, the world's getting crazy, like AI, how can I be successful, in the next 5 or 10 years?" Focus on the fundamentals of being like a healthy, regulated human
Mm-hmm.
being. Actually do that every single day, and you'll be leagues ahead of
Mm-hmm.
anyone that's like going down AI rabbit holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like what does your heart need, and always take that into account with everything you do. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean just like to sit in a field and pick daisies. If you want to build a business. But this thing right here operates a million times better when you connect with God, and it operates a million times better when you give it what it needs. I was having a conversation with my dad like this, and he was it was actually like one of the deepest conversations my dad and I ever had. And I referenced like, what are I'm sure maybe you know this, maybe you don't. I think you do, but what are the two most important commandments in the Bible that Jesus says?
It's like, well, this God guy, just love God
Hmm.
with God gal, just
Yeah.
love God with all your heart and love other people in the same
Yeah.
way. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. So love the Lord your God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself. There's a tiny detail in there that I think a lot of people miss, especially if their relationship with God is one dimensional and just about like following rules. And it's that love your neighbor as yourself. If you do not love yourself and do not know how to love yourself, how can you possibly love other people and be a steward for the resource that God has given you? Because if we are children of God, right, like we have God in us, like the same way I have features from my dad and features from my mom, you have features from your parents and you, we can't possibly love God to the level that we're actually capable of if we don't start by taking care of the one resource that He's given us personally, yourself. So, like, if you can't take care of your heart and if you're not willing to love yourself, what is your example which to love other people? If you can't hold space for yourself, you can't hold space for your wife. She won't feel safe. The relationship struggles. If you can't hold space for yourself, you won't be able to hold space for your team or your business. The business is going to struggle. If you can't hold space for yourself, you can't hold space for your neighbor or love your neighbor, and in turn, love God in a more aligned way.
with you. It's a trickle down effect of, because I mentioned earlier the feeling of unconditional love, which I think gets thrown around a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
unconditional means that God loves you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my past when I was being, I'll call myself a name now, being a piece of shit in different ways, right? It's like when you have an experience where you're receiving unconditional love, not because something you did, just because you exist, that changes you at a fundamental level. And then you can start to see yourself in that way. And then, as you mentioned, you talk to your neighbor, and it's like, oh, well, yeah, my neighbor didn't take my garbage out for me, so like, screw that guy. Well, that's not the love that you're receiving,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, why are you holding back the river when
Mm-hmm.
that river is being unconditionally poured onto you in every moment? And I think that's uh, at the root of it. If someone starts there and they just start to connect with that, I love that term of like a river. It's like it's just flowing. If you can step into that flow, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get this conception that loving or unconditional love means you have to be a doormat or just like
Yeah,
accept everything. Like, no, no. If somebody does something terrible to you, you can still love them and draw a boundary.
yeah,
You can still love people from afar. I personally don't think that if you learn to love somebody, you can ever really turn that off. Sure, you might not talk to them, whether it's like a friend who you fell out with or an ex-partner. But if you enter that arena with somebody, like that's the point of the game. You don't have to stay there if it's not worth it for you. But like
yeah.
it doesn't mean you have to keep talking to this person or stay in touch with them or keep being a doormat.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the things I really wanted to ask you was what does building with God look like to you? And from a business standpoint, how do you do that with your clients and yourself?
Yeah. Two ways to think about this. One, we talked about Taylor Walsh
Mm-hmm.
earlier. He has a new book. It's called The Currency of Heaven.
Yeah, just got it.
And and from that perspective, there are uh, divine principles, universal principles, or even biblical or scriptural principles that, when applied to business, will make it more successful. It's just how it works, right? So that's like one way to approach building your business with God is go to God's teachings and apply that to your business. Sounds simple, but that's a very exciting rabbit hole and journey to go down. So, just as an example of what you talked about of loving other people as you love yourself, why are, well, big surprise, some people that are treating their customers like shit, and all of a sudden their business fails a couple years later? It's actually just a universal principle that will happen, right? So that's one thing to think about, that there are fundamental principles as to how our reality works, that should be applied to your business if you want it to be successful. Should be applied to how you think about finances if you want them to grow and to multiply, right? So that's one way to think about it. The other way to think about it is something what we mentioned too, which is allowing God to lead. And so God's like my business partner. So I don't just think like, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here and meditate in a field and pray in a field and then it's all going to work out. I'm an active participant in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that, you mentioned, God is a consultant, or when people talk about the Holy Spirit is like a counselor. And so you can get counsel and guidance on a daily basis, but then you go and you do something with it, right? And so if you think about like having a business coach, you have a meeting with your business coach, they tell you some things, okay, cool. Now you actually go and apply it and do it, embody it, right? And so if someone wanted to start building their business with God, it starts by taking an approach like you did and getting quiet and either meditating or praying or getting out in nature or however anyone connects with that. And you start to ask, why am I here? Right? That's what I've been asking since I was 17 years old. That set me on this whole personal development, spiritual development wormhole. Why the heck do I exist? Because I believe I'm here on purpose. And that's a very powerful place to get to, that you believe that you're not just a random consequence of some cells multiplying and now you're just like, I'm just randomly here. If you believe you're here on purpose, you can start to ask a really fun question, sometimes frustrating question, to your heart, to your soul, to your spirit, to God. Why am I here in this present moment? What is the purpose of my existence? And there's some fun ways to get an answer to that, looking at some of your natural gifts, some of the things that naturally excite you, also looking at some of the most difficult, traumatic things that have happened to you, what lessons have come from that. All these can come together in the present moment to say, hey, I think at least right now on January 9th, 2026, this is why I'm here. And then from that point, you can start to commune with God and yourself and say, well, if that's true, then where do I see myself going? Where do I see the world going? What do I believe is possible? And this is someone's vision, right? So you can have this spirit-led purpose. Then you have a spirit-guided vision, right? This being a visionary, literally seeing a future possibility or potential. And then in the present moment, you can then ground that in your business by putting it into a mission statement of some kind, right? So this is why I believe I'm here. This is why I believe God put me here. This is where God is leading me. This is where I see it as possible as a visionary, right? And then in my business, in my community, whatever the case may be, this is how I'm going to help myself and other people get there, right? And I would call that like your spirit's nucleus or your soul's nucleus, right? It's the thing in the middle of your life that informs everything else. And if someone's clear on that, and they regularly check in with God on that, of why the heck am I here, where am I going, and how should I get there, that starts to be a spirit-led business. And again, just I mentioned it briefly, but my perspective is God is my business partner, right? So this isn't my business. This is God and I doing this together, right? And so I think those two threads are a really good place to start, of pulling either some of these universal biblical principles and applying them logically to your model, to your approach, and then also this relational experiential dynamic where you pray or you meditate or you get nature on a regular basis and you get consultation and you constantly have this little compass on my desk. And so if we were out at sea, every single morning we would wake up and we'd go to the compass and let's make sure that we're on track. Right. So this compass for me is the communication with the Holy Spirit. It is the communication with God, and constant adjustment, constant adjustment. But that adjustment can be really annoying and frustrating, or it can be fun and exciting. And I'm lucky to know some people that live in a very spirit-led, kind of this prophetic led life, and I've found through being around them and then through experiencing it myself, this is actually the most fun way to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I resonate with all of what you said. One of the things that you said was that, what are my gifts from God? I saw something the other day where it's like, a gift is meant to be given. And if you're given gifts from God, like, it is your moral obligation to give them to the world. Otherwise they atrophy, right? Yeah, dude, I love all that. That sounds incredible. How would you, if somebody says, hey, look, I'm trying to connect more with God, I don't really have a basis, what will be the first thing you tell them?
For me, my natural cheat code is nature. So leave your cell phone at home, go wherever you live in the place that you can be most away from other people, and go get out in nature. Bring a journal if you want, and go spend at least 2 hours or more out there. And then, to put a little gasoline on the fire, set the intention, or literally ask, "Hey God, I need some help. I want some guidance." And you might go do that the first time and have a revelation, or you might need to go and cultivate this as a practice. And nature is one way, meditation's another way, prayer's another way. Um, a lot of different people do this in different ways. You know, that someone like yourself, where you've committed to a daily meditation practice. For me, what I found with myself and clients is if they pick something and they stick to it for at least 2 months,
Hmm.
they will have an experience. They will have a revelation, and it will change the course of their life. The problem is most people don't pick something like that and do it for at least 2 or 3 months,
Hmm.
and they're looking for a solution that can work tomorrow. And you might start a prayer practice and have a revelation tomorrow. Like, that can be true.
Hmm.
We don't know exactly. It's not like this perfect formula of like when
Hmm.
it's going to happen and how it's going to happen. But that is the best place for someone to start, in my opinion. If you talked to me 5 years ago, I would have told them to go take mushrooms and go out in the forest, and
Hmm.
you'll have an experience.
Yeah.
And I'm not 1,000% sure where I sit with psychedelics in the present
Hmm.
moment, because psychedelics for me was the thing that connected me to something bigger than myself. Um, but if you just start journaling on this, you just start meditating on it, and you start to ask. I think that's the biggest thing. You literally just start to ask
Hmm.
for help, for guidance, or what should I do? And at first, it's hard to ask these questions because the answer might not be immediate or might not be guaranteed. But if you consistently ask for guidance and you consistently open yourself up to a different possibility than what you know, as I mentioned, as like just randomly, if you did that 2 months in a row, I can almost guarantee you will have some sort of revelation as to the direction that your business should go.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I think that psychedelics are wonderful, and I think that God gave them to us for a reason. But I also think that you can have a psychedelic experience while being completely sober in the literal 3D realm sense of the word, where you're not taking any substances. Like I've had experiences where when I met my partner, I was literally in Thailand visiting her. Fourth or fifth day, I'm like, man, I'm having such an awesome time. This woman's great. And then my biggest client at the time turned, and he didn't give me any reason. It was 5K a month out the window. He just told his LinkedIn ghostwriter to tell me because we were friends. He was like, yeah, we went with another guy. And I'm like, did he give you any reasoning? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, well, fun. And then later that night, a client charged me back for 8K. And I was like, well, I'm here. I'm in it. I gotta deal with this, right? Like
Yeah.
I gotta figure this out. And it's funny, Kelsey always tells me, she's like, you seem so calm and like you handled it really well. And internally I was like, fuck, like what am I gonna do? But I think that was probably my journey, which is like, how can I handle, can you still hear me by the way?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I accidentally unplugged my headphones. That was my journey, which was to learn how to deal with the hectic situations. But the next day, I say all this to say, the next day I woke up and felt like just this hot coal sitting on my stomach. I like it, when I moved, I felt it moving, and I just started like projectile vomiting. And I haven't thrown up in like over a decade before that. And it was just, I was just sick, just coming out both ways all day. And then the day after that, I was fine. Because I was like, oh, is this food poisoning? No. Kelsey didn't get sick. We ate the same thing. And I was like around her all day, so there's no bug. The next day I was completely fine. So I'll say this to say is like that trip that I took, it wasn't just like, let's go to Thailand, like let's go to Germany and just like who cares? No, there was a deep intention of like I don't know how to have fun, and I think that's gonna be really important for me. Like I don't
Yeah.
actually know. I need to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And because of all those things coming together, I
Yeah. Here's a little cheat code for people too that want to go on this path. The first thing to really sink into, is when you start to connect to God and you start to build with God and walk with God, is you can't do it wrong, right? Because a lot of us, based off of whether it's like programming from school or just like the entrepreneurial world, seems very binary. That was very helpful for me. I'm like, okay, I can't do it wrong. I can't do it wrong. Just like try my best. Just be a good person, and just like it's all gonna work out in the most mysterious, magical way. But the second part to that is because you can't do it wrong, it means you can't do it right. And this has been really, really big for me. There's no
mm,
way to perfectly do it right either. And so I like to think about it like a chessboard. right? And so we're looking at this chessboard like, yeah, there's like the knight and the queen, we've got the pawns, and here's this chessboard, and this is like this 3D experience of like I move a pawn, and but God is playing 5D chess or like 10D
Mm.
chess. It's like
Yeah,
we
10D
can't,
chess with multiple boards.
yeah, we can't even begin to comprehend uh, what's happening, why it's happening, the divine nature of things, and so that's been very, very grounding. Well, it might start as ungrounding, but it became grounding for me is that I can't do it wrong, which is great. Okay, remove that pressure. Like you're not going to fail the test, and you're not going to get 100% and get the gold star of like okay, you perfectly figured out how to build your life with God, like amazing. And in that space in between, in that paradox, in that tension, there is a path.
Mm-hmm.
And it is winding, it is mysterious, it will be completely different than everyone else's path. But if you can get comfortable in that unknown, which I think requires faith and a lot of courage, there is a magical hero's journey that awaits.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. I like that mental model a lot because, from what I'm understanding, and you can tell me more about what you think, um, the point of the game isn't to win it, and you can have comfort in the sense that you're not going to lose it. It's about presence and faith. Like, can I just stay in the game and like
Yes.
trust that this is all happening to the highest good according to God's will?
Yep. Yeah, you can't lose and you can't win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people don't like that, hearing that at
Yeah.
first, because especially in entrepreneurship, like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a winner.
Mm-hmm.
I will figure it out. I will get the perfect
Mm-hmm.
offer that converts at the it's like yeah, that's like level one.
Yeah.
And it's not like bad, but there is life after that,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a lot more peaceful, a lot more enjoyable, and a lot more fun.
Yeah. And it's not, you didn't say like you can't do things you enjoy. It's just the idea of winning. Like,
Exactly.
what does that really mean at the end of the day? I I firmly believe that so many entrepreneurs build from a sense of ego because they have this idea of what it means to be the best. A lot of people I've worked with, and this isn't universal, obviously, right? This is just my experience, and I can't extrapolate this to everybody. A lot of people I've worked with who have talked about being the best and really obsessed over it, I didn't like working with, or like were some level of difficult in a degree that's past what's appropriate, or just didn't treat me super well. And that's because to me, like being the best in anything is very subjective.
Yes.
Like if I asked you who's the best basketball player of all time and you said Michael Jordan or LeBron, I'm sure I could find somebody who could argue to death the opposite thing. And like at the end of the day, what does it really mean? Who cares? Like some people like, for example, like Kevin Durant was so unhappy after he reached the pinnacle of basketball because he wanted the validation from people and people wouldn't give it to him. What's the point of that?
Totally.
Who
I
cares?
think this is actually, going back to the spiritual perspective, what I feel is true for me so far on my journey is that that unconditional love means that we're good either way. And so someone's like, no, like I'm being a way better Christian. I'm following the Ten Commandments way better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Which, by the way, to follow the Ten Commandments perfectly for your entire life is impossible.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, great. And so this idea that like, oh, I have been a better Christian or I've followed
Mm-hmm.
God better. So that means like, sucks to be that guy that's going to lose, but I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't feel true to me. And what does feel true to me is that the love and the salvation is freely given, right? And however perspective you want to do it, that Jesus you know earned it through his
Sure,
sacrifice, and right.
sure.
But we're all good, all of us. We're all good, and also maybe in the kingdom of heaven, maybe there are different realms and levels. Like I don't know, and so some people might be cool with they're playing ball hockey with their friends, and some people want to play at the NHL. Maybe that
Mm-hmm.
exists in heaven. I don't know, but I think at a base level, thinking you could win or lose is a trap for the most part that keeps us stuck in a binary.
Yeah, and I think that keeping having that super black and white outlook is part of the reason why certain people gravitate to organized religion and dogma and other people don't. But I also think it's a reason why some people might not cultivate as deep a not as deep a relationship, but just to compare mine and theirs, but just why they might feel frustrated with
Yeah.
the act of surrendering. Because
Yeah.
there has to be, in my opinion anyways, there has to be a level of being okay with not knowing. And there has to be a level of being okay with subjectivity. Because like I love what you said, like my truth is this. There are a lot of people that will argue with you till they're blue in the face. Your truth doesn't exist. And I mean, I think that the greatest example of that is, somebody's truth might be, I'm very funny, and a lot of people don't agree. Who's correct, right? But because the mind really likes closed loops and conclusions and things that feel like there's closure, it really takes practice to be okay with not knowing. And it really takes practice to be okay with surrendering into that and like learning how to feel safe. But I think once you do that, there's this level that you unlock that wasn't there before.
God is not a closed loop. God's an open loop, an infinite open loop, and for most of us in our human experience, that's like terrifying. What does that mean? No, I want A plus B equals C,
Mm-hmm.
and God is the infinite equation that cannot be answered, unless also paradoxically the answer is unconditional love all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting. No, I like that, man. I like that. We'll wrap up here pretty soon, but what's one of your biggest goals for this year heading forward?
My word for the year is stewardship.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my goals is to be a good steward of what I've been given. And on a financial front, that means that I'm actively focused on wealth creation now. And so by the end of this year, I'm excited to have a surplus. And speaking very honestly or openly, the way that I've operated in entrepreneurship is like been very good at making money, have historically not been good at taking that money and building.
Yeah,
Um,
multiplying.
and so that like money is just an example of the stewardship, but like all the gifts I've been given, I've been focused on multiplying them and on growing them. So that's like a very like tangible goal. Another tangible one would be I'm starting a like a local networking group in Kelowna, and so the goal is to have 200 of the most successful entrepreneurs locally that are faith led, and get them together and start connecting them and seeing what magic they can create together. And then to spend more time with my wife and my daughter, which I've done a pretty good job of that historically, but even more so, it's a goal. We have our second on the way is to make some of those spaces of family time non-negotiables. So, for example, on
Mm,
Sundays, we've started to do no screens,
mm,
and so yeah, it's kind of like a high level look at the year. And also, I wake up every day and I ask for this compass to be directed. And so I have these goals, and yet I am surrendered and obedient on a daily basis. And you
mm.
could talk to me next week, and it might be different, which is very different than how I've operated in the past.
I like that a lot, man. It's much like the compass. I think it's all about calibration rather than like finding the right path. Because with airplanes and even ships, like they're constantly doing this, right? Even on the slightest scales. It's not just like, okay, boom, we're going. Because the ocean moves and the wind moves, and there's all these other factors that if you don't account for, the plane could just fucking go off path. So it's about calibrating. Oh wow, I just went blurry there. It's about calibrating every single day and making sure that you're taking tiny steps to align with what the ultimate goal is.
Calibration is a good word too. I'm gonna lock that in.
Yeah, take that.
Yeah,
Put it in your swipe file.
as you were saying that too, just as a little synchronistic. There's a plane flying by right now.
Oh, nice,
So
nice.
that guy or gal is off path right now. Like they are not pointed directly to where they need to go, and the plane is like turning as I say that. Perfect.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and so just a constant recalibration and having fun. And I brought up fun a bunch of times here too because I think people think about like, okay, I'm going to give my life to God. I'm like obedient to God. I'm surrendered to God. Like serious. Okay, sure. And also, like, what an adventure.
yeah,
So fun.
yeah. I One of the best analogies I was given was if we're children of God or expressions of God. Like let's just use a parent as an analogy, right? It's not perfect, but let's use it. a good father, do you think it wants his kid to live in perpetual fear and always be sad and anxious and angry about whether, like, no, of course not. So, like, the best part of hanging out with your dad is having fun with your dad. The best part of hanging out with your friends, of hanging out with anybody, of any type of mentor needs to be fun. So if that isn't in there, maybe there's room to cultivate that.
Here's something that could. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and it ruffles some feathers. But I love this idea of being invited into like a divine family.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a heavenly father.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. A divine mother. Great. And probably a sibling or two. You know, that's a family. So Heavenly Father, pretty obvious, like the Father, right? Sibling, I think Jesus makes a really, really great older brother. That's like
he did start a lot of his homilies with brothers and sisters.
exactly. He's also older brother. He's like, I went first, right? It's like he just graduated grade 12 or grade 9. He's like, let me. I know some things. Like here's how the school works, right?
Yeah.
And then Divine Mother, I think possibly could be synonymous with the Holy Spirit, right? That spirit-like quality. And there we go on a daily basis. You can have some big life chats with your dad about the order and the structure of things. You can go on an adventure with your older brother and be asked what's the way that I should follow, and then you could have a more like spirit-led kind of emotional conversation with the Holy Spirit and ask for some guidance there. And I love that as a compass.
I like that too. The inner Catholic in me wants to be like, it's Mary, but I mean, it's all
Totally.
it's all interpretation. I think one of I had this client a little while ago through contract work. He was a preacher, and it was like a very big school of faith that he ran in multiple cities across the world. Australian guy. Interesting stuff. Like I always like kind of delving deep into that world. But one of the things that he did that always stuck with me was at the end of every meeting he would pray, and when he would pray, he would like literally start the prayer with like, "Hey, Dad, like thanks so much for like giving us these gifts and like." Allowing us to change people's lives. And I thought that was so awesome because it felt very like intimate.
Yes.
And the idea of just like, if you need something, just go ask your dad, like he's in the other room. Like, oh, if I need something, I can just ask, whether you believe God's out there or like in your heart. It didn't feel like this grand, serious, very solemn event. It was just like, oh no, it just, thanks for giving us everything that you've given us, and I really appreciate it. It's so awesome that we're here. Even though he didn't necessarily, there were moments where he wasn't getting what he needed. He was even so like, hey, it's all good though. Like, I trust you, and like, thanks so much. And amazing client to hang out with.
And sometimes too, you can be upset with your dad. That happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
If anyone likes that idea, there's a book that I'd recommend, which I have right here, which is called Fathered by God.
Oh, cool.
So by John Eldredge, and he has a really, really fun approach where he has this very like father, like he calls it like Papa. Papa, like what should, and it just immediately drops you into the child.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd recommend that book, Fathered by God.
Sweet. Okay, well, if you want to tell people where they can reach you.
Honestly, just Instagram is the easiest. Alexander.VandeLaar. Super simple. It's the one place where everything flows to. So Instagram is the best place to connect. Send me a DM. Or just like pray and talk to me in the quantum. Like either one of those options is good.
Yeah. Either way. Okay, appreciate it so much, man. We'll stop here and then we'll debrief. But everybody, thanks so much for hanging out. Peace.
Awesome.